Last time on Gogeta vs. Vegetto, Seth cleansed the anachronistic beliefs that had grown throughout the community like tumors in the form of reactionary news content made by vacuous creators, ignorant of their own ineptitude. Now the community shall be purged of this contagion once again by the God King Seth, joined by his aficionados in reason.
So today we're joined with a little foursome. We got the boy Godtongue. He was on this channel, I think, like last year to deal with Kale.
Yeah.
We got Taurus Silveru, who's a popular...
Greetings from Amino.
Greetings from Amino Apps. And we also have the one, the only, Chuck the Cyber Cuck. And that is very cringy and dead. But it's been so long. It's nice to have you back on here, Chuck.
Hey, what up, fellas?
We're going to be going over two different things. So it's going to be Vegetto versus Gogeta, but only dealing with Dragon Ball Super. We were originally going to do like Z and like Heroes, but we're just like, ugh, fuck it. We need to like make this as normie proof as possible. Add as much detail to the arguments as possible. We don't want to make any confusion by making things too vague. So we're going to start off with the popular Facebook debate going around right now. And that Facebook debate is actually Goku Black Arc Vegetto versus Broly Movie Gogeta. And then after that, we will talk about a recent controversy dealing with Weekly Jump kind of starting this Gogeta versus a Vegetto have equal power scandal thing going on. So starting off, Chuck, why don't you take it away with Goku Black Arc versus the Broly movie?
Okay, so with Goku Black Arc Vegeta, like people think he's like, you know, the most powerful character ever. And some people still believe that Goku and Vegeta and Jiren are like not more powerful than Vegetto. Like they believe that Goku and Vegeta can never become more powerful than their past fusions, even though it is stated in the series so many times that they got more powerful since then.
Yeah, it's literally like stated they surpassed Buu Saga Vegetto in the next arc, like after he happened.
Yeah, so basically like in episode 110, like we saw Jiren push away the Spirit Bomb. The Supreme Kai's like, wow, this guy's like really powerful, like plain and simple, right? And Vegeta and Goku state like many times, yeah, this is like the most powerful guy we've ever faced. So it's like, how the fuck is Jiren or Goku and Vegeta gonna be weaker than Super Saiyan Blue Vegito when we have Goku and Super Saiyan Blue dealing with Jiren, you know, start getting more powerful with the Zenkais, right? We also have like Goku in base form actually dealing with Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla or Super Saiyan Caulifla. People believe, oh, like you need to be a Super Saiyan to match another Super Saiyan, but that is not the case. You can just be in base form. Like if your base form is more powerful, you can, you know, defeat a character that has a transformation, right? Basically, with all these statements, you know, Goku and Vegeta were like, wow, this is like the most powerful guy ever. Goku even stated, like, I have never been hit by an attack that is this powerful before. And then we have Jiren powering up, and Belmont's like, wow, I've never seen him like this. I haven't seen him like this in a long time. And Goku, like, kept up with him in Super Saiyan Blue. So it's like, yeah, these guys are way more powerful than Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. And it is only logical that a Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, who is post-TOP, would be more powerful as well than Super Saiyan Blue Goku Black Arc Vegito.
A lot of people have this disconnect with how strong these characters can get over time. There's even the popular, actually it was popularized on Amino Apps, funny enough, but that Goku surpassed a Potara amp of Goku Black and Zamasu literally in that same battle, and then Zamasu had to get a bigger amp that they had to use Vegetto to fight. Now I'm not going to go into that, but basically there's numerous things backing this up, like can a base character surpass a Super Saiyan? Fucking obviously, right? You know, base Goku was considered stronger than the Supreme Kai in the Buu Saga. This is shown on a few occasions, especially with base Vegeta threatening to kill him and taking out characters like Pui Pui. And Pui Pui was stated to be able to have the power to take the energy of the three fighters and retain a similar amount of energy that was taken from Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in one sitting. You also have situations like Super Saiyan Gohan got dominated by First Form Frieza, and then here's base Goku taking on Final Form Frieza. Base Goku versus Caulifla Super Saiyan 2, stuff like that. So obviously that can happen. You get a lot more powerful over time. And you even have base Goku somewhat being theorized to surpass Vegetto from the Buu Saga, right? Because base Goku absorbs his God essence. He absorbs the power of Super Saiyan God into himself, goes Super Saiyan, and this is considered a power beyond Vegetto because he thought Vegetto couldn't handle it, yet with his God powers, he was still confident enough to suppress himself and fight Beerus. And this is literally just the arc right after Vegetto appears. Now, it's not to say wow, if that Goku went Vegito right there, that Goku would be stronger than Vegito. That's not what we're saying. We're saying Goku in the future can be stronger than Vegito in the past. So in this case, it's kind of like future Gogeta is just stronger than past Vegito. It doesn't necessarily say anything. It's just the plot just demanded they get astronomically more powerful over time.
Yeah, and like we even saw this in Dragon Ball Z as well, when I think base Gohan was actually holding his own against like Super Saiyan Trunks when they were training. We saw examples of base characters being more powerful than a Super Saiyan character. So yeah, it is very obvious that you can be more powerful than a transformation.
Yeah, I feel like Chuck didn't touch up on this enough, but Goku does push Jiren numerous times. So like Goku throughout all the whole Tournament of Power, he's constantly getting Zenkais. Talked about this in an old video, but his Super Saiyan Blue form becomes so powerful that he can take a kick that Whis compares to like a Kaioken times 20 Super Spirit Bomb. So he's already getting extremely powerful just from singular Zenkais in this arc. And then we also know that he's constantly pushing Jiren to new heights, and every time he pushes to this new height, it's stronger than anything they've ever faced before, in the words of Goku, Vegeta, and the Supreme Kai. So it's not just the Supreme Kai, it's all of them saying this. So there's no reason to not believe that they cannot surpass their fusion in the past. And even if they don't, it doesn't say anything about Vegito versus Gogeta, because obviously this would be this Goku who's a lot stronger with the fusion. So it'd still be even greater than what we're describing.
Yeah, and I also want to add in, so this wasn't really covered by either Seth or I, but there was like some cards that were revealed like many months ago, and they actually like kind of give you like the stats of the characters.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
no, yeah, okay, so it isn't really like the best argument, but I believe that MUI Goku and Jiren are supposed to be like higher on the stats than Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, so you could also argue from that.
It's weird because we don't really know a whole lot about Mastered Ultra Instinct in terms of like a multiplier, so that is a little bit weird to use. So
something that you could actually do, you could bring up like manga Vegito, since he does have the statement of being like potentially surpassing Beerus, right? And I will preface this by saying people downplay the manga way too much, but so basically, you know, Blue Vegito in the manga with the final Kamehameha, he stated to like potentially surpass Beerus, right? Which more so puts him in that same kind of gray area that like Broly is, less so than Gogeta's level. Though you could potentially argue that since Goku knew it at the time, like Black Arc Blue Vegito should be able to use the Mastered Blue form, which itself is like another Patara level increase, as Goku went from like weaker than Goku Black to arguably more powerful than Merge Zamasu just with Mastered Blue.
Using the manga, right, manga Vegito should be able to take out Broly as well. So that brings into question, can like anime Gogeta use like Mastered Blue? There's also the argument, is the movie, is it being animated after the manga or the anime? And I've heard that it's actually based on both. So
yeah, it seems like Toyotaro kind of skipped over it because he more or less considers the events of the movie to be what happens in the manga as well.
Right, and then it's actually stated by animation staff that the movie is based on the anime. So it's like, is it for both? Yeah, and I mean, technically it could fit with both, because both of them are being screwed over here. Neither one uses the Mastered Blue form, and neither one uses Kaioken or Evolution, so it could technically be both. So there's no problem really there. Obviously, Broly Movie Gogeta dicks on a character stated relative to Beerus, and Beerus wasn't really fully confirmed to be surpassed until the late Tournament of Power. Promotional guide is trying to hint that Broly is the most powerful antagonist that they've ever fought in before. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, so like what I think is that if you want to go by narrative, you know, like they're saying, oh, Gogeta and Broly are like the most powerful, right? They're like the strongest ones if they fight, you know. So they're kind of saying that Broly and Gogeta are surpassing levels from the TOP. So if you want to go off of that, you could say that, you know, Goku Black Arc Vegito will lose in that case, but going off of narrative and promotional info isn't always the best, you know, but
I mean, even without it's honestly just another argument that still proves Gogeta wins.
Yeah, it's basically like supplementary, if anything.
Basically, the promotional guides, the problem with them, we're going to be going over this later, is that a lot of time they contradict the source material just to like hype up whatever they're promoting, right? And we will be going into more detail about that later.
You know, the whole strongest versus strongest statement, you know, that's how it's being promoted. If you were to take that hyper-literal as they're trying to promote it, you know, Gogeta would be stronger than Whis and Broly would be stronger than Whis, but like what we know in the movie, We know in the movie, right, that Broly is like can't even lay a hand on Whis at all. So clearly, these statements are just hyperbole, just to hype up the movie.
Right.
But like Seth said, we'll be going into that a bit later.
Obviously, Dragon Ball Heroes is like, not canon, or it isn't like, the main continuity. It is like, the video game, but it is really interesting because Super Saiyan 4 Xeno Vegito and Super Saiyan Blue Capsule Core Vegito, which is technically like the super one, but from the games, they are both actually weaker than MUI Goku, or it is at least implied that MUI Goku will be like, around their level, if not even more powerful. So if you want to go off of that, you could also say, yeah, MUI and, whoever other character is like near him would also be more powerful than the fusions.
That's not like a main argument or anything. It's just like showing that it could be like a possibility.
There's basically a lot of ways to show that Vegetto doesn't win.
In conclusion, Vegetto swaps hands with Fusion Zamasu, who is blatantly stated weaker than numerous characters throughout the Tournament of Power, even in his infinite astral form or Mugen Zamasu form. Zamasu did beat and scrape Vegetto a few times. It's also pretty much confirmed that Gogeta beat a character relative to Beerus, and Beerus wasn't fully confirmed to be surpassed until Mastered Ultra Instinct, so late game, post Omen 3 Goku, is when Beerus was fully confirmed to be surpassed, or by full power Jiren, and we already realized that way earlier, like 110 and after Kefla, both of those were confirmed to be stronger than any Fusion Zamasu or Vegetto battle we've seen before. So Vegetto does get clapped by Broly Movie Gogeta. That is definitely not a debate. Now, the biggest debate here was Gogeta versus Vegetto equalized due to Weekly Jump coming out with one of those promotional guides we were talking about earlier. So now we're going to hand it over to Torres Silverio.
All right, so the big controversy, as said, is the new Weekly Shonen Jump scan. It states Gogeta and Vegetto are equally matched. In some other translations, like Kenzairo and a few others that Seth said, they say they are equally matched in terms of being a trump card, so not in terms of strength. The translations aside, we actually have statements and stuff like that. People say, oh, it was always supported, oh, that was always the case, there's nothing wrong with that. And these are the main points that they normally say. They say, well, Old Kai in the Blue Saga, he only said that the Potara is better than the Fusion does, and people interpret that as, oh, it has a longer time limit, so therefore it's better that way, or it's not a reference to power, things like that. And of course, they always say, oh, there is no true evidence. In reality, there's actually lots of pieces of evidence that go against that, like the show, the feats, the guides, everything goes against that. The main thing that I'll be talking about is, first, we said the scan from V-Jump is actually a scan of higher authority that directly contradicts that, and that would be Daizenshuu 7, where it talks about power of fusion, and it actually just directly says Potara grants greater power than with fusion. The Daizenshuu is a credible source of information that Toriyama has approved and actually had called the untarnished truth in his exact words. Whereas this V-Jump guide comes from just some random bonehead from magazine writer who's just here to promote the movie.
Not even a producer or a writer for the movie, just some random
it's
magazine
like
writer.
A random.
He's literally a random.
Yeah,
just hyping it up like in any way he can.
Yeah.
So
no, like it actually reminds me really quick. So basically, like, remember the whole statement of, oh, Broly's like the most powerful that Goku and Vegeta will face. Like I mean, even then, it's like there's really no validation behind that statement. So.
With the Weekly Jump guy turns out to be a producer or anything, it still contradicts things that the main continuity and Toriyama's works have shown and displayed. It would still be a blatant contradiction. This is the example I gave to someone on Twitter when I was kind of getting heated. Toei states Janemba is the strongest. Koyama states Broly is the strongest. So, at this point, you have two contradicting sources. So you can't just say, it's an official source, it matters. It's like, well, there are numerous official sources that say different things. So which ones do you use, right? You would go by the more consistent and the more higher up interpretation. So for example, the Daizenshuu is considered to be this untarnished, Toriyama jerked off guide, and it's backed up by the actual manga itself. Right, the actual manga confirms numerous things with Potara being stronger than the fusion dance, and we'll talk about that in a second. But before that, I kind of wanted to start off with the Potara retcon. So when it comes to that guide, it could be referring to a few things. So when the old Kai says that the Potara is better than fusion, we learned later on that the Kaioshin might simply be referring to what he considers two Kaioshins fusing. So when two Kaioshins fuse, they have a perpetual fusion that doesn't disappear, and it might be possible that these two Kaioshin fusing have a greater boost than two mortals fused. However, that is headcanon, right? The only effect we actually know that's different between Kaioshin and mortals is that it's a longer fusion. That's the only known difference.
You could also potentially argue that, like, it's definitely not stronger for, like, Kaioshin, because even after, like, Shin and Kibito fused, Goku and, like, Vegetto was still, like, surprised at how powerful he got upon fusing, despite Goku having seen the creation of Kibito Shin.
Right, and also the Goku Black fusion, too. And also, here's another weird thing. The Elder Kai might have been basing it off his own fusion with the witch, who wasn't a Kai. So that's something to always consider.
What Gatong said, it is actually said in like the El Manga Legendario, I think, that Kibito and the Supreme Kai, that they did not get like a big boost either.
It's actually stated that they weren't an impressive fusion, but not in terms of boost.
Yeah, but like still fodder to like Vegetto, so yeah.
Speaking of which, in terms of the Vegetto and Gogeta comparison in the Buu Saga, there are actually numerous things before Vegetto and Gogeta, which is Potara and fusion in general. So when Potara is first introduced, the old Kai first says it's better, and then, Goku and old Kai have a chat. Should Goku turn into a Super Saiyan, then fuse with Gohan? So Goku feels Super Saiyan is still needed. And, you would assume he knows what the fusion multiplier is. He assumes that Potara is better than this, so it should be at least as good as fusion. And what turns out happening afterwards is that old Kai says, no, you don't need Super Saiyan at all. This because just Potara is just that strong. And, to Goku's surprise, he says that's a great thing. That's definitely a good thing. So you get this implication from already at the start when Potara is introduced that a base Potara is more powerful than a fusion Super Saiyan. As the series progresses, this supported more and more. Like when Goku goes to meet Butenks and stuff like that, Butenks says, whatever you do, you won't be able to defeat me. But even if you fuse, you still won't be a match. But just in case, I'll get rid of you. So Butenks is directly comparing himself, calculating with the knowledge of Gotenks, who knows how to fuse, turn into Super Saiyan 3. With all of that in mind, he still calculates that a fusion of Gohan and Goku, presumably who can turn into a Super Saiyan 3, are still weaker than himself.
That Butenks also has, like, Piccolo's intelligence, and Piccolo was literally the one who was like, Goten, Trunks, fuse in Super Saiyan, you'll be stronger. And he literally has, like, all of Piccolo's intelligence, so he knows what, like, even the more efficient ways of using the fusion are, and he's still like, nah, y'all can't beat me.
Piccolo also knows how strong Goku and Vegeta are, as well as probably Gohan. So that adds more credence to that, but why don't you continue more? I believe there's actually more stuff in the manga supporting this.
Yeah, definitely. In Kai, there's also the Buhan statement afterwards. So when Vegeta comes back to Earth, Buhan senses him straight away, and the first thing he says is, the two of them can't beat me. Even if they do fuse, they still can't beat me, which is still reference to the fusion dance, because he doesn't know any other form of fusion.
He also knew about Super Saiyan 3 and Super Saiyan 2, like, because he fought them before. So he'd be like, oh yeah, Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta is gonna, do nothing to me.
He also literally absorbed a Super Saiyan 3 fusion.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like he wouldn't know very well about, like, their kind of power.
So when, after Butenks states this, Vegeta and Goku fused, and as they're fighting him, Butenks questions them, like, you fused, you turned into a Super Saiyan, so what? What have you done? And Vegito, interestingly enough, says, you're too inept. You don't know what Potara does. Come fight me and I'll show you the difference between what you think is fusion and what is Potara. Already there is being implied a difference as well between Potara and fusion. And then later on, Vegito himself says, look at this. Imagine this. To think I can make this big a fool of you. He's amazed at how strong he is. Even though Buhan claimed earlier that a Gogeta Super Saiyan 3, hypothetically, can't beat him. You have Vegito in just his Super Saiyan 1 form beating him and dominating him before. You have a reason as well for why Vegito is this strong. Like, El Manga Legendario directly states that the rivalry between Goku and Vegeta further comes to boost their power, to the point where a fusion of Gohan and Goku was said to be inferior to Vegeta. The rivalry boost is just that high.
Gogeta never really has any such rival boost talk in anything. It should also be noted that Goku is a master of fusion. He is the one that taught it to Gotenks to begin with. I believe he also teaches it to Vegeta in the Gogeta movie as well. He saw the original users of the technique. He learned it directly from them, and their whole species does it. So no, he should know exactly what it is, and Vegeta would have all that knowledge as well. And he's like, yeah, I wasn't expecting this at all. Like, this is way stronger than I thought I would be.
So continuing off of that, we actually have this super exciting guide. There's actually 2 volumes that people seem to misunderstand. There's the character guide with the massive famous Super Saiyan multipliers and Vegetto on it. Everyone knows about that one. And then there's
very popular.
Then there's the less known one, which is the story guide, which actually talks about Gotenks and what his fusion increase was. And this guide actually states that fusion gives birth to a warrior who multiplies the powers of the two together. When it comes to like sort of mathematical examples like this, when you're given 2 things to multiply, you normally do 1 times the other. And similarly, in this case, you would do 1 times the other, person A times person B. So you can actually argue that the fusion dance is an A times B increase. And I know some people are already like commenting down there, oh, Potara is A times B. Don't worry, I'll go over that. There's actually numerous pieces of information that say that Potara is greater than an A times B. So for one, Daizenshuu says that Potara is greater than fusion. So if fusion is A times B, then Potara is obviously greater by that statement. But we actually have statements in the show as well that sort of support that. So when Goku is trying to actually convince Vegeta into fusing, he says, put on the Potara, this will multiply our powers together. And, after Vegeta struggling and stuff like that, with his pride and all that other crap, and then he finally decides to throw away his pride, he asks Goku, will fusion be enough? Will this A times B boost that you're talking about be enough to beat him? And Goku just straight up says, I don't know. And then, of course, Vegetto, as we talked about earlier, says that he's surprised at how powerful he's become. So even though Goku says that they should get an A times B increase, they're still surprised at how powerful they became.
And also, I think that the same thing was actually stated for Gotenks as well, that their powers will also be multiplied. We actually do have one kind of official guide, you could say, well, for GT anyways, and it is that Gogeta is supposed to be dozens of times more powerful than a Super Saiyan 4. So it's do they mean dozens of times of base form, or do they mean dozens of times more powerful than their transformed states, or what do they mean by that, right?
Even if you were to take fusion being A times B and Potara's A times B, there is actually evidence that fusion doesn't have a rival boost, because Goten and Trunks, Gotenks, who Boo absorbed and has all the knowledge of, are rivals.
I believe they're stated as rivals.
Even when they fight in the tournament, they both take it super seriously, to the point where they end up breaking the rules that everyone set for them and going all out and using Super Saiyan when they weren't supposed to. So they clearly take their competitions with each other very seriously. And despite that basically being the only basis that anyone has to judge fusion off of, Potara still ends up being stronger than everyone predicted a fusion between Goku and Vegeta would be.
The whole retcon argument, you can imply it's a retcon. However, there is some evidence that it's more like Toriyama's just kind of writing around it rather than directly retconning it. It's because it's not like Potara doesn't permanently fuse people. It's just it only permanently fuses Kaioshin, right? So technically it's still true on that regard, but they're just adding more stuff to it, right? So if it's immortal, it's not permanent, but it's still longer than the fusion. We were kind of joking about this earlier, but even if the forms were equal, Vegetto would still be greater just because he has more of a time limit. You'd have an hour-long time limit, and in combat, it would be far more useful to just put on 2 fucking earrings, then do the fusion dance and fail a few times. Because in the Broly movie, they do the fusion dance, they fail twice. Frieza is getting his ass obliterated for an hour straight by Broly. The whole time. I've heard rumors it was harder than the Topo beatdown. Longer than the whole Tournament of Power, because they couldn't fuse properly. So the Potara earrings, even in that case, Vegetto would still win more times than not. even if all of this evidence just was somehow wrong, a random promotional magazine writer just has total authority over everything that's ever happened narratively in every official source that has more credence than himself. Okay, if that's true, I guess Vegetto still wins just because of time limit. All right, there you go. So, yeah, at the end of the day, Goku Black Arc, Vegetto gets slapped by Broly Movie Gogeta. Absolutely no problem.
Except manga.
And manga. And Gogeta versus Vegetto equalized. Vegetto should still logically have a preponderance of evidence. The weekly jump scan is not enough of a debunk of that. And obviously there's a lot of reasonings for them to create that, right? Because they're trying to say things like, oh, the fans are disappointed because they think that Vegetto is like a bigger, badder guy than Gogeta, right? He might be stronger than Gogeta. So like, well, why isn't Vegetto in here? Like, we just want to see Vegetto. Like, Gogeta is just like a watered down version in terms of power. So they're trying to dull that down so more people would watch their movie, and it's dumb. Their promotional team is obviously retarded. They're really just ignorant when it comes to these kinds of things, and this magazine just doesn't have enough. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Special thanks again to Godtongue, Chuck, and Taurus. And other than that, till next time.